Shane Schaffer, Chairman and CEO of Cingulate, is joining us today on the Big Biz Show. CING is their ticker. And you and I have been talking off air about Dr. Matthew Brams, your Chief Medical Officer, and how much you admire him and how this whole thing started. So great to have you on the air with us, finally.
It is great to be here.
I want to ask you, talk about how you brought up in the beginning. What made you think in terms of the frustration and such? Because what's the background to make you start thinking about that stuff?
Well, that's a great question. Hopefully I look younger than I am, but I've been doing research in ADHD since 1997.
Wow.
And back then we had kind of, sort of long-acting medications, but you had to take it 2 or 3 times a day. Lots of withdrawal if you just stopped taking them. They were a little harsh. So we improved a little bit, but I've done every medication for ADHD on the market. I've been either an author on the journal articles, or I've done the research on them. I said to myself, I talked to Shane. I said, Shane, we still don't have one ADHD medication that really fills the medical needs, even though these are big companies that have a lot of money put into it. So being in the field for so long, 30-something years, and doing research, I kind of figured let's form our own company and really make a drug that's going to really be, it's going to catch on in the clinics. The doctors and the nurse practitioners that prescribe it are going to love this. And so we decided to say, what's a really good ADHD medication? And as he said, one that starts really quickly, one that is well tolerated, has very little withdrawal. If you can't come down off it, it's already got that booster built in. And who likes to put a Schedule II drug in your pocket walking around, especially if you're at school or something like that? So we have a built-in booster, which we're one of the first ones that
Is it Schedule II because, as you mentioned, it's a narcotic? The original, I forget, Ritalin was a narcotic. Was that the first one, or was there something else?
Yeah, well, go ahead.
Well, first of all,
Ritalin and amphetamine.
it's not really a narcotic. There may be like opioids and things like that, but it is a stimulant.
Stimulant.
And so it's a low schedule.
So what was
drug.
the first stimulant? Let's say in 1980 or something, or somebody said we should try this.
Methamphetamine,
Oh, no kidding.
Methamphetamine.
Was used
20.
first?
which is still used for ADHD.
Still used.
10 patients in the country.
In fact, if I want after the show, we could prescribe meth. Doctors,
Called Desoxin.
but we don't.
Wow.
Merry Christmas. Merry
You
Christmas.
could prescribe it and go to a.
You go to a pharmacy. It's Desoxin.
And then from there, it went to
Methamphetamine.
intent to where? To what?
Well, then you got the Ritalin, which
Okay.
is the person that discovered Ritalin. I think her niece was called Rita, so it's Ritalin.
Okay, right.
And so Ritalin was 1957, and it was for a 4 to 5 hour drug. Worked very well, but you had to take it 2, 3, sometimes 4 times a day. But it revolutionized the treatment for ADHD.
And then came the time release stuff.
Yeah,
The Concertas of the
Now
world.
you got to go all the way to the 1980s.
Yeah.
So mid-1980, they finally had a product called Ritalin SR, which didn't work at all.
SR meant for slow release.
Sustained release.
Sustained release.
And so in ADHD, you don't want sustained release. This basically gives you like a Volkswagen hump.
Right.
That doesn't work in ADHD. You need the drug levels to go up and down so that your brain can sort of reset throughout the day, and the medication has to start working quickly. It didn't have speed or duration. Then you go to the late 90s, and that's when you had Concerta, which was a methylphenidate product. You had Ritalin LA, and then you had Metadate CD and Adderall XR. We had to wait another 6 years then for Vyvanse to come out, which is a prodrug that gets metabolized into D-methylphenidate in about 2 hours, so not a very fast onset. Lasts only about 8 to 10 hours after that, so it gets you to about 2:30 in the afternoon. That was the whole problem. The drug didn't last long enough. So from there, that's where Dr. B, myself, and Dr. Silva said, let's fix this problem.
It seemed like a few guys were trying this. What made you guys think you could do it?
Well,
I mean, because look, with all the sustained release and everything else, somebody had something like that in the back of their mind.
we were drinking beer at the time.
This had been attempted.
Well,
But not well, in your opinion.
Not well, because what the drug companies, we're talking big companies with lots of
I
backup.
did it at Novartis, a multi-billion-dollar company. You had Johnson & Johnson, you had Shire, which is not Takeda, all mega billion-dollar companies. They didn't do it. Here's what we did. Not to jump forward, but we sat in our ivory towers at Novartis and J&J and those companies and said, here's how we're going to develop it. This is what we're going to do. Doctors are going to love it.
Yeah.
We started doing the research. We put it into the clinic. It was better than what we had before, but it still had all these other issues and problems. 2016, we brought out all of the experts from around the world to Kansas City, and we said, look, we're going to sit in this room for two days, and you're going to build us the best drugs. And if you've ever been in a room with psychiatrists, I mean, they get a little esoteric. They were going all over the place. Right. But we left that room saying, okay, we have to deliver D-methylphenidate. Number one, what's the asset? D-methylphenidate on the Ritalin side, D-amphetamine on the Adderall side. We're going to deliver it at time 0, time 3, time 7. That was a day in itself.
Yeah.
We're going to deliver it as a pulse, as a sustained release, and a pulse. That was actually pretty easy, surprisingly.
Huh?
But now we're going to deliver it in a 35, 45, 20 ratio.
What does that mean? Oh, I see.
So,
Okay.
so if you're given 10 milligrams, you
Got
get 3.5, 4.5,
Sure.
2. That was another day. But I mean, we all came to a sort of an agreement that that's the best way to treat ADHD. Then we got into the clinic. So we started with the experts, the people that have been treating ADHD for decades. Then we went to the clinic. We did the pharmacokinetics. We did the phase 3 study in adults, which I'd love for Matt to talk about. But I mean, everyone's like, whoa. You guys have put together a product with an effect size that is unprecedented. We've never seen a product perform this well to give you entire active day efficacy.
Dr. Brams, when you were at that barbecue, that you thought to yourself, you realize we don't have this? Did you know it could be done? Did you just know in your heart of hearts that, look at,
Yeah.
they're close, but did you have the secret sauce in your head at that point?
Yeah, we did. Dr. Raul Silva, who was the chief science officer, we said we could do this. But you're giving me too much credit. I didn't develop the PTR system. I knew what was needed. I knew what the pharmacokinetic graph should look like. That means how it goes in the bloodstream. So we found PTR in Scotland. Yeah. And I didn't understand them at first because they were speaking English in Scotland. But I did realize that they were able to come up with the technology to do this. And again, they drank as well. And not that we condone that. We do discourage drinking.
No,
but yes, it can be done. The problem is that the old companies, these monster dinosaur companies, just did 50%, because that's the way it was done for all this time. They weren't really experts in the field. They had a million different medications. We are, at first, ADHD experts, but now we're going to go to different things with our PTR. So yes, we knew it could be done.
I think what's interesting here is what are you going to do when the black helicopters show up?
I was just about to ask that. I mean,
from the big pharma.
are there
you
vans
guys
driving
figured out.
by the?
When we come back, I'm going to talk about that the FDA arc of the story, and then of course partnerships. But I do want to talk about one thing also. ADHD folks are often bouncing off the walls, interrupting, lash out, and you're giving them a stimulant. You guys got to explain that when we come back to the room. Big Biz Show, bigbizshow.com. Stand by. We got the folks from Cingulate, CING. Dr. Matt Brams is with us, the Chief Medical Officer, of course, Shane Schaffer, the Chairman and CEO. We got much more to come. Don't go anywhere.